This presentation is brought to you by Arizona State University's Julianne Wrigley Global Institute of Sustainability and a generous investment by Julianne Wrigley.
Capitalism needs nature. It needs to be able to have some domain in which you can take as much as you like and throw away as much as you like back into it and not pay a dime. And when it comes to chicken, that means we take this gorgeous bird, the red jungle fowl, from the jungles of Asia, and then we mutate it because we can, and we mutate it into this thing, which is so with breasts so large that it can't even walk. This is the modern broiler chicken. And in the process of doing this, we've lost 50% of the genetic diversity of all chickens. And that's the case writ large. I mean, these are graphs showing Earth system trends and social trends, and it's hard to see from the back. So let me just simplify it for you. This is where we're heading. Now, you may have seen a graph like this before, and you may have associated it with people like Thomas Malthus, the British sort of population theorist who was basically terrified of the working class shagging and reproducing, and then and eating up the planet. But that's not the case I'm making. I'm not making a population argument. I'm making a capitalism argument. I'm saying that it's capitalism that's driven us to this moment, because there are plenty of civilizations alive right now that have not been responsible for the sixth extinction. It's only one civilization in particular, the one around capitalism, that has driven us to this extreme. Now, let's get back to this chicken nugget, because the chicken doesn't turn itself into a nugget by magic. It requires workers. When you buy a chicken nugget at your preferred vendor, you spend $1 on it, about 2 cents will go to the worker. But in some cases, that's too much. And there's always a downward pressure on wages, as anyone who works for a living knows. And so prison labor is used in the United States. Some prisoners get paid 25 cents an hour. Recently, in Oklahoma, some enterprising chicken executives had an amazing idea. They killed 2 birds with 1 stone, not including the chicken. What they did was recognize that there is an opioid crisis in America right now, and that it's hard to find workers to work the night shift at a chicken production line because the wages are shitty and it's dark. And so what they did was invent something called Christian Alcoholics and Addicts in Recovery. And it's a recovery center where instead of being sent to jail for minor crimes related to substance addiction, you get sent to Christian Alcoholics and Addicts in Recovery. And then you spend your day praying to the Almighty. And by night, as part of your rehabilitation, you work on the chicken line. You're not covered by standard worker safety regulations there, and you don't get paid a thing. It's free work as far as the chicken production facility is concerned. But it's part of your treatment, your rehabilitation, your redemption. It's an amazing system of dealing with the opioid crisis, and it's the oldest system of labor, of capitalist labor in this continent. Because what did the Spanish first do when they came to the United States and enslaved indigenous people, but put them to work in the name of Jesus Christ Almighty? And by day they would work, and on Sunday they would pray for the salvation of their souls. This is exactly the same thing, except with a night shift. This is the 21st century, and we have come not very far at all. But this cheap labor is running out. I mean, even in China, we're seeing a rise in the number of strikes. Workers are becoming more and more militant. And cheap labor is harder and harder to find, which explains, in part, why you need these amazing kinds of schemes. But when workers' bodies are broken, as they are, what happens? They are sent out into the community to be cared for. And workers' bodies are broken. I mean, this is a short graphic that shows the various parts of the body that are prone to injury in chicken production. And it's usually the community's work to take care of workers who are broken this way, because occupational health and safety doesn't cover it. And by community, of course, we always mean women, because it is invariably, care work is always disproportionately gendered. And the world economy depends on it. I mean, if just to give you a very boring bar chart. I mean, in 1995, the world's total output was 33 trillion, and of that, 16 trillion was unpaid work, of which 11 trillion was women's unpaid work. But the cost of care globally is going up, and healthcare in particular is outstripping what people can afford. Care is becoming too expensive. The era of cheap care is over. And of course, then one of the corollaries of paying people virtually nothing and assuming that their care will come for free is that you need cheap food. You need food that only costs $1 for all of that, well, each of those. And cheap food is the corollary of low wages. That's why when some people say, well, we need to pay more for our food, if they don't insist also that people need to be paying more for their labor, then they're just bourgeois. We need, cheap food is what it is that makes the modern economy possible.
This presentation is brought to you by Arizona State University's Julianne Wrigley Global Institute of Sustainability for educational and non-commercial use only.